So I'm going to have each of these wonderful women introduce themselves.
Honored to be here. I have so much to talk about, from being a mother of 4, from working in the birthing environment and industry, and from being a baby-wearing mom. So I'm so excited to share my story with you guys. And I'm just really honored to be on this panel with these beautiful women also.
Hi, I'm McGown, and it's such an honor to be here. Thank you so much. I got teary because it is so special to have this type of community, and when we really learn to heal ourselves this way, we change our communities. And I'm a postpartum doula. I started after the birth of my first daughter almost 8 years ago, so a lot has changed in Los Angeles in the birth community, which is amazing. Now also a motherhood coach. So as you transition through all the different chapters of your life as a mother, I'm now supporting women that way, and I'm a prenatal yoga teacher and meditation teacher and nutritionist. Thanks.
That is a lot to follow. So many things. No, thank you for all that you do for women. So I'm Jill Koziol. I'm co-founder and CEO of Motherly. If you don't know Motherly, especially those of you that are pregnant right now, I do hope that you look into us. We have a community of about 30 million women per month that are watching our videos, and we're making women around the world cry every day with our emotional videos and articles. And we have a week-by-week guide to motherhood that is woman-centered, not baby-centered. So we are here for you. My co-founder and I founded Motherly to really change the world on behalf of all of you, to really show the world that a woman doesn't stop being a woman when she has her children, and that motherhood is an opportunity to nurture, not lose, your true sense of self. And bottom line, when mamas thrive, families thrive, and the world thrives. And so that's what I'm here to talk about with all of you as you're on the beginning, maybe for some of you, this journey. And just so grateful to be here. So thank you.
Hi everybody, my name is Michelle Wahler, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Beyond Yoga. And we also have a maternity line called Beyond the Bump that I started because of one of my dear friends. When she was pregnant, she was looking for clothing to wear while she was pregnant, and it was actually a really big struggle. And so we set out to make clothing that was going to make you feel wonderful during the time when you need the most nurturing. And we also have a lot of clothing that will help you feel good in the postpartum time as well. And at Beyond Yoga, our mission is to embrace your body as you are today, whether that's whatever phase of life you are in. And that's why it's important for us to have the maternity line as well. But everything that we believe in at my company is about self-love and kindness to yourself. And so I really appreciate that meditation, because I think it's so important that you're taking care of yourself and giving yourself the love that you give to others, and it just makes your foundation so much stronger to be able to give that love out into the world. So I think we all need to embrace our bodies and recognize how amazing they are, that they're creating life. And everyone needs to release the judgment that they have on what they want their bodies to look like, and just celebrate them for what they are, and be proud of every aspect of your body, from the scars to the stretch marks to every ounce of you, because it's all amazing.
Hi. So not intimidating to follow at all. I believe in being genuine, so I'll just say I love public speaking, but I'm still nervous. Yeah. So my name is Abby. First and foremost, I am a mother of 2. My girls are about to be 6 and 8. I love them, they are my light. And the process for me of going through the transition to motherhood was huge. It did change a lot of things for me. I saw how hard it could be, and also how transformative and beautiful and bringing communities together, and what a difference it makes when you have the right support. I am a psychotherapist, licensed clinical social worker, and have been in mental health about 20 years. But even with that background, when I was pregnant, I still had no idea that the most common complication of childbirth was depression and anxiety. It affects 1 in 5. And then for another 3 or 4, we feel like we're hit with a ton of bricks. And so now my mission, well, first I started treating perinatal mood and anxiety disorders, and now my mission is to prevent it, because I think why bother getting really bogged down when you can learn skills and strategies to actually enjoy this transition, to be empowered to find your communities of support, to find your circle, to find your village. So that's my mission now. I am in San Diego. I have a small private practice down there, and I'm really excited to be now branching out into online education. And I'm gonna work with the organizers to get everybody a free code for my first course, which is how to prevent postpartum depression, which is all about how to make this 4th trimester transition something you actually enjoy. And so I'm excited to really dive deeper into some of these topics with this panel.
Great. So with that, I'm just going to go ahead and start the conversation, and especially around like what is the 4th trimester? Because I think, you know, when I had my first daughter 10 years ago, I knew of it only through Ayurveda, but it wasn't something that was on Baby Center, which was like probably like the only thing that existed at that time for me. So I'm jealous of all of you with all this information, but I'm going to ask McLean, like, what is the 4th trimester? What are the first 40 days?
Yeah, great question. I didn't know about it with my first either. And now there's a great book, The 4th Trimester by Kimberly Johnson. I'm sure a lot of you have it. It's a great guidebook. So the 4th trimester is really that time, the first 6 weeks after you have your baby, and throughout the traditions around the world, it is known as the sacred window or the golden time, because it truly is that, and we have to revere it as just as important as the other trimesters. So it's not like you just have the baby and then now like you're scot-free and like everything is just moving forward. It really is, in many ways, the most important time, because you are establishing your milk if you're breastfeeding, you are allowing for the space for your hormones to kind of settle back down, and you are literally allowing the tissues of your body that is so open and expanded to come back. So something that I think is really important, before I forget I want to bring up, is that, you know, a lot of the incontinence and pelvic floor issues, you know, we think, oh, it's just because of pregnancy and labor and birth, when really so much of it now is being proven is because we don't rest enough during those first 6 weeks. So it is that important. It is my whole life's mission is to talk about the first 40 days, because having not done it with my first, I was almost 34, so I healed pretty easily, just kind of by default, because I was a young, healthy, like been doing yoga since I was 15. With my second, I really was my own guinea pig, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna follow the first 40 days strictly and see what is what, for real. And it was 2 months before I turned 40, and I literally had a rebirth. And so I'm very passionate about it, because I completely not only healed my body and my mind, but I healed myself from my first birth trauma. So I just offer that wherever you are in your journey, whether it's your first baby or your second or third, there's always so much opportunity for healing. And my acupuncturist told me that you can actually be healthier postpartum than you ever have in the rest of your life, because we are feeding ourselves how we need to feed ourselves. You know, when we have a baby, your priorities really shift. It's like, you're hungry, you eat. You're not hungry, you don't eat. Like, for most of us women, like, that's revolutionary, right? To eat when you're hungry, to not eat when you're not hungry, to sleep when you need to sleep. And so it's really an opportunity to heal patterns of your life and be the model you want for your child. And it is sacred. I mean, I look back at those first 6 weeks now, and I want to go back. It was so woomy. You're nodding, yeah, you're like, yes. Because especially if you have more than one kid, you know, like, life never slows down. Like, you don't really get that opportunity again where everyone's on board with you. And, you know, the sooner you can start learning about the first 40 days, sending some PDFs to your family members, getting your partner on board, your family, and people go, yeah, I wish I had that. And they'll get on board with you. And, you know, every tradition around the world has different recipes, different traditions, because it makes sense. It's how we thrived and we kept living, is by keeping moms alive and keeping babies alive. And so it's really simple stuff. It's just hard to implement it because it's against our society. So I could go on forever.
No,
but
thank you. No, I'm going to go off already the script. This is who I am. But I think the next question is going to be, how can new mamas take care of themselves in the fourth trimester? But I'm also going to add on to that a component of the reality is a lot of women really might have to go back to work, or they have priorities that make them feel like they cannot do these things. So I think like sending a PDF and like starting ahead of time. So what are things that women can do, just that are the easiest things to do during the first 40 days, but then also for women who might not be able to really do that, like, yeah.
Well, it is more complicated when you have other kids, that's for sure. So lining up any nanny share or family member coming in town to help. I'm really into the meal train for people, especially if you can't afford a meal delivery service or a doula to come cook for you, is get your friends online. You know, Han of Mother Bees has a great book. I'm losing right now.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm still postpartum. I'm 2 years out, but I still count it. That's a great book to give, you know, mother-in-law, mother, friends, to get those recipes, and you can even start freezing them. So you can start months ahead, just putting them in the freezer. Tell your friends the kind of food you want, so you're really getting the food that you want to eat. And I feel like people appreciate that, because they're like, I don't know, what do they want? It's like, this is what I want. And I think just keeping it simple, just resting, just, you know, if baby, you know, they always say, when baby's sleeping, you sleep. And it is true. It's sometimes annoying to keep hearing that, but even if you're horizontal, listening to podcasts, you know, watching a movie, just being horizontal, allowing gravity to let your body heal and being off your feet.
Kelly, do you have any thoughts on that, or Jill?
Yeah, I totally agree, and I love the fact that you said that most people, I mean not most people, but there's a ton of people that can't afford a doula or a meal train. That's really important to recognize and to identify. But for me, I mean, I'm literally knee deep in it right now. And what I've done and I've learned, since this is my fourth one, I've had a lot of practice on what I need and at the times that I need it, but I'm not one to ask for help. I'm not a big one that steps out of my comfort zone. I'm a Virgo first and foremost, so I like to do everything myself. And so what I've learned, what works for me, is I put a list up in my house. So when people come over, they can literally just check off things that I need to do. So that way you're not asking for the help versus and I let everyone know this at my baby shower. Like, hey guys, I'm gonna put the list up, and when you come over, you guys can check off what it is that I need, so I don't have to ask. And that list includes like, help me with the laundry, go play with my third kid because he is a riot, like certain things to do. So for me, that's what works. And also it's being able to know how to say no. Like to yourself, like, nope, I'm not gonna do the laundry today. Nope, there's dishes and I really don't care. Stepping out of the need to always be super mom and trying to be the mom to everyone, not just to your kids, to your partner, to your spouse, to your parents when they come over. When people are coming over to visit you, learn how to say, yeah, I need help, and not changing the sheets for people and cooking. So that's, for me, what has been the most helpful in my transition with my fourth to learn, is to really reach out and to ask for help and not try to be super mom all the time, especially when it's your first child. Because a lot of the times we as women, we try to prove to everyone else around us that we can do it. Like, I'm a mom, I got this, and your in-laws may be around, your parents might be around, and they have their own opinions on, is baby getting enough? The baby needs rice cereal, and you're like, no mom, the baby doesn't need rice cereal, the baby's fine, my breasts make enough milk, and baby's fine. But there's certain things that you have to learn how to, and like I said, for me, it's just to say no to the things that you can't do, and what you can do, just go ahead and fulfill them.
I love that. Jill?
So many people have to go back to work before those 6 weeks, for example, too. And so I'm actually, Live It Up is a new company that's going to be launching in October. And I did a 21-day challenge with them on the fourth trimester. So for those of you that are still in bump stage right now, hopefully you'll get a chance to see that, but hit on so many of the things that you just said. Two that come to mind for me though, one is just, it's a mindset in part. If you have to go back to work, if you have other children, it's partly just acknowledging to yourself that self-care is not selfish. And saying that to yourself. Mantras, like actually write it down, put it in your bathroom mirror, places where that you can actually remind yourself of this. Like you are Mother Earth right now. You are literally giving forth, life to others. And so you have to take care of yourself. And so even if you're working, or if you're taking care of other children, making sure that every day there's something small that you do that really is just for you. So that feels incredibly important. The second is, you know, if you are a Virgo, I'm also a Virgo, so I get you. Happy birthday, by the way. Thanks. But when you have to-do lists, women generally, right? You know, it's not that we're great, women are better at multitasking, it's that we have to do it. And so we all have the list, we all know how to multitask, but when you're in that 4th trimester, that sacred time, take that to-do list, cut it in half, and cut it in half again. And that is a reasonable expectation of what you can accomplish that day, beyond actually, you know, feeding and nourishing yourself and your baby.
Thank you. Sure.
Yeah, all right. I forget, are we talking about
Okay, yeah. So the next question is to talk about some myths around the 4th trimester. And Jill, that was actually a question for you.
There are so many myths. So the part of it is that we don't actually need a 4th trimester, that it's not actually a thing. And there are sadly still medical professions that, you know, say that. The fact that our medical system in the United States right now, still, you go to the, how many times did your baby go to the doctor your first 6 weeks? I mean, at least twice, you're having that interaction. And one of the myths is that mothers don't need that kind of medical and health care during that time. And so you most certainly do. So with a postpartum doula, if you're able, support groups, talking to your OBGYN still, it can sometimes feel like no man's land. Like you're not supposed to see your midwife or your OBGYN until that 6 weeks period has come, and your general practitioner doesn't know what to do with you. So one is that, you know, that it's not really a real thing, and it most certainly is. And so be sure to advocate for yourself is something very critical and important to know. Other myths related to the 4th trimester are that your body doesn't know what it's doing. There's often the thought that this doesn't come naturally, that you need a lot of external things to happen to make things work. And as you said, if you give yourself time to heal and you nourish your body appropriately, your body does know what to do during most of these during this period. Another would be related to mental health, and as you kind of demystified all of that for us already, but postpartum depression and anxiety doesn't necessarily look the same for everyone, and that's incredibly important to know. And while we do need to do self-checks for ourselves during this period, it's also not your responsibility to diagnose yourself. And so ensuring that if you are facing something like that, you know, even before this period, again, preparation is key. Let's all be Girl Scouts. But sharing this with your partners and with your family members, that like, here's a checklist. Like, please be watching me. It's my job to take care of the baby. It's your job to be taking care of me too through this period. So I think that one myth is that it's not common, and that it is something that doesn't happen to many women, when in reality, as you shared, and I can turn it over to you, this is incredibly common, and it is not something to be ashamed of. And postpartum depression and anxiety and mood disorders can sometimes look like, again, anxiety. They can look like depression. It can come across as anger, even. And so knowing that there are these different types and ways in which your emotions can happen is I think, a real myth, that it only looks one way or the other. So I'm going to hand it over to you, because I'm sure.
Well, thank you so much. And one thing that I love about this event is that it's not just focusing on embracing the newborn and the new carrier, but embracing the mom. And I love how we've talked about traditional cultures and how traditional cultures have that tradition. Traditionally, the new parents and both parents aren't expected to cook, clean, work, or do anything but just care for the newborn. And so there's all these layers of support, embracing and wrapping around that family. And you know, in some ways you could throw out the conception of postpartum depression and anxiety completely out the window, say we don't need the DSM. What we need is to look at our society that is doing everything wrong. We're isolating typically new moms in their own home, alone by themselves. So many of them are being forced back to work before they're ready. So what can we do? Can I talk about matrescence? The birth of a mom. So one thing that maybe this is a myth, I had no idea, was that the birth of a baby is the birth and beginning of a mom. For many of us, sometimes this happens before. If you've had a loss, we can say sometimes that the birth of a mom happens at conception. Sometimes it happens even, since childhood, when we've had the reproductive story in our head, just kind of imagining what it's going to be like. And that's, to veer off a little bit, that's why it's so crushing and hard when the reproductive story does not align up with reality. And that's just a loss upon a loss. So the concept of matrescence, at first I didn't love the word. It's kind of an awkward word, but it's an awkward stage. If you want to look at the word adolescence, adolescence is the developmental stage when you are transitioning from a child into an adult body. And it's awkward and hormonal, and you have pimples, and you don't like yourself, and you're stumbling all over the place. And that's the same for us when we are becoming moms in this matrescence stage. And so that's when we need the most help and support. Sometimes I'll call this stage the reverse Cinderella effect. I forget who said it, but you're so right about the doctors checking on you every week at the end of your pregnancy, and then it's like, see you in 6 weeks. And it's like, some things happen, like, don't you think you should be checking on me? And new moms are often just, get out of the way, let me get that squishy little baby. And they're just kind of relegated back to the handmaiden to the baby. And so I love that now we are trying to speak up, put moms first, and the hardest thing is asking for help. One really huge risk factor is if you are a competent woman, if you have worked and done well in your job, it can be extremely hard to be thrown into being a parent and you're brand new. We don't live in a village where we're watching our aunts and sisters and cousins do this. So we don't really know, we don't see it, but we have this expectation. This should be natural, breastfeeding should be natural, what kind of a woman am I if I'm failing at this? And so having that self-compassion and that forgiveness and easiness and yes, really, really, really lowering our expectations.
I really like that, and I think it's important, especially there's something we haven't talked about, but in face of like this new, you have your identity before, but then you are in this new experience, but then you're also still looking at social media maybe, and you're seeing how this person's done it and this person's done it, and you're grabbing all these like fragments throughout the day of how it should be.
That social comparison.
How it should look like versus what you actually consciously want to create. So my next question is actually for Michelle, and it's how do you incorporate your identity shift into your new motherhood identity, and what about balance, although I really don't love balance. But Integration. How do you integrate that?
Integration is a much better word than balance, for sure. When I was listening to you speak, I am like being flooded with memories of when my first child was born. And I feel like there was so much information that I just didn't know. I was the first of my friends who had a child that was on this coast, and I didn't really see very much of what was going on. And I had an emergency C-section that happened after I think it ended up being like 36 hours of labor and 6 hours of pushing, and I had no idea that was something that could even happen. And I had a very traumatic situation, and nobody had ever talked to me about it. So I felt so alone because I didn't know how many people go through things like this. And you hear about pregnancy and labor, and you're like, oh, it's hard, but people tend not to want to make you frightened, and I'm not meaning to frighten anybody. But I do think it's important to know how how common C-sections are, and that there's nothing wrong with you for having one. And I think that I also was not aware that there was going to be, I had this vision of how things were going to be. I happened to run my company with my husband, and he kept saying he was going to take time off of work as well. And I was like, it's fine. I need you to be at the office. I will take care of the baby. And I didn't realize I wasn't going to be able to walk for 2 weeks. I wasn't going to be able to pick up my child, and I expected that I was going to be a certain way. And I think it was like one of the most shocking, like, vulnerable positions I've ever been in, where, because I've always been able to do absolutely everything in life, and to not be able to do something and to rely so heavily on, you know, my network, which was mostly my husband. So I think it's really important to make sure people know that this is really common, and to talk about it before you go into your situation. Like, the idea of a C-section, I just thought, I'm going to manifest the delivery situation that I want. I'm not even going to read about C-sections because I don't want to know anything about it, because that will bring it into my life, which now I look back and I'm like, I could have benefited from knowing some of these things and being aware of the alternatives. But I also want to talk about how, you know, transitioning back to work, and how to, you know, give yourself room. Like, I know that I have a company that's predominantly women, and there's around 50 women who, you know, work at Beyond Yoga. And when women come to me and tell me they're pregnant, I love how everybody always has a plan. They're like, I'm going to go out on this date, I'll be back on this date, you will be able to reach me, I don't want you to feel like you can't. And I can't help but laugh, and I say, do not put yourself in that position. Planning might leave a month or two early. Let's just be ready. Let's have that plan in place. And please do not plan on talking to me for the next 4 to 5 months, because you just don't know, and you need that, like, sacred protection. You have no idea what you're about to go through, and it is, you know, extremely life-changing, and you just can't picture it. No matter how you've envisioned it, it will always be different. It's like, you know, blind dating, and they're always a different person than you met. So I think it's really important to plan for the unexpected, and to give yourself that, you know, that forgiveness and room to not have everything together at one point in your life, even if you are the master of your universe and always have everything in order. It's good to be able to just surrender and, you know, be kind to yourself and not hold yourself to the expectations that you did in that moment, and you'll be able to hold yourself to those expectations again. It's not like, you know, it's a forever pass, but, you know, things change.
I have one thing about the identity shift,
Yes.
though, because I first want to say, for many, how many of you are pregnant right now? Okay. And how many of you have a new one, whether they're with you or right now, like are in the 4th trimester? Okay. Let me just first say, you've got this. You really, really do. This is such a miraculous, beautiful time in your life. And when you look at your identity before this shift, you are not losing, you are gaining so much. The strength and I'm getting the chills as I hear myself talk. The strength and the power that you are about to embark on and discover in yourself is truly where the beauty in all of this comes from. And while you need to nurture yourself and rediscover yourself through this time and make these preparations and plans and no plans and all of these things, it sounds really, really overwhelming, but you've got this. And the superpowers that you are going to gain through this experience are going to help you in every single aspect of your life. You do not stop being who you are. You are it is a metamorphosis. It is like a butterfly. And we all would rather be a butterfly than the caterpillar, right? And so just know that it is a process for sure that you're going through, but you've got this. It's amazing. You're joining the best club there is in the world, and all of the challenges and sacrifices that we're talking about are worth it tenfold. So I just wanted to add that in as well. Wow, I'll start with that. So, you know, the American nuclear family killed the village. This whole motherhood thing was not meant to be done alone. You are not this singular vessel out at sea by yourself. And so, one is to know that talking about it, sharing like we are here, coming and finding time, like this is self-care right here, all of us being together. This is an opportunity to like change the world with all of us here and like get the energy from one another, from other women who have been there or who are going through this journey at the same time as you. So it's talking about things. It is acknowledging that you do need help and that it's okay to ask for help. And frankly, similar to you, the Virgo side, I didn't want to accept help, but what I learned was not accepting someone's help was in some ways judging them for even offering to help. And that's not what you're trying to do. It was this like big judge fest happening. And so people that are offering to help, like you will return that, right? What you put out comes back. And so making sure that you are asking for help and that you're receiving that help as well. And that you're giving it when you have the opportunity to. And so I think it is just recognizing that this is not meant to be done alone. You are not doing it wrong. It really is that hard, right? And that just lean on each other, lean on others, find the digital help that you need, find the in real life help, all of those things. But postpartum, Doula probably has ideas too.
Yeah, what was the question? I was listening so intently and all of that. This is an overarching thing, but we teach other people how to treat ourselves. So I think it really starts with us having the education to have the courage to ask for what we need. So, in that way I do think social media can be helpful because you see what other people are doing and having these conversations early of like budgeting, there are ways to do a lot of the postpartum care that's very low cost, DIY, and also prioritizing, a lot of women spend a lot of money in Los Angeles on handbags and shoes and jewelry. And that can be prioritized into your care. And I feel like the earlier you start thinking about that, the better off you are going to be. And really looking at like, our new family is going to be my business. And like, how are we setting this up? How am I, the CEO, setting myself up to thrive in this business? And, I think when you bring it back to the mental health aspect of it's an investment. And so, I always tell my clients, because as of now, postpartum care, because we don't live in that village, it is more of a, it feels like a luxury. But, having been my own guinea pig, if I had just paid for the care on the front end with my first, rather than the 5 years it took me to really heal with the body work and the therapy and the doctors, and really, whatever it is, whether it's $500, whether it's $5,000 or whatever, you're banking in your health. And the old Indian kind of mantra for the first 40 days is the first 40 days of life is an indication for the next 40 years of life, and that is such a mantra for us to really hear. So it's not just, you're not being selfish because you want to have great food and rest during your first 40 days. Like, you are literally setting yourself up to heal during your menopause. It's all created. And I think in our society, we put women up in these phases of life. Your preteen, your teenager, your young hot 20s, your 30s, then you're like mom, then your 40s, then your 50s, you're like your menopause. It's like, we're all one body. And so like really respecting it throughout all the chapters is key.
One other thing I will say is motherhood is really isolating. So as great as this club is, and as nice as it is, and as nice as you think women can be, when you first experience motherhood, you're very nervous sometimes to even interact with other women. So if you can, as much as, especially here at events like this, reach out to each other, exchange numbers, and be really honest with yourself and with others about your experience, because you never know that the next mother might be going through the exact same thing as you, versus trying to put on this, picture perfect lifestyle like Instagram and other social media will portray, that things are so great. It's really refreshing sometimes to hear another mother say like, shit was hard today. I had a blowout diaper. Like, it was not good, and I fucking may hate this today. It's okay to be honest with yourself and others. It doesn't make you look any less strong as a mother, as a woman. And when you're at places like this, find your tribe, guys. Like, connect with each other, exchange numbers, because it's even difficult, as I know with my fourth now, I'm just out there, but my first, because I was the first of my friends to have children, it was almost like high school, middle school again, where you're like, do you think they'll like me? Should I go say hi? Should I not? You know, so it can be really isolating. So find that as much as you can. Find those people and engage with those people and share your stories. And for me, that's the best way to connect in the fourth trimester and beyond, and even before that, even throughout pregnancy.
Short thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Just a short thing to throw off. As far as like social media and Instagram, how can women support each other is being real. So, you know, maybe we like to curate it and put our most beautiful moments. But if you're doing that, maybe just be transparent about it and say like, hey, my day did not look like this, but this is a beautiful moment and I want to share it. So I think that there's ways to be authentic and real and still be beautiful. This time is beauty and brutality, and I think as much as we're real and share that it's hard for us, that's how we can help support someone else to speak up and say the same.
One more thing. I have to say the thing that helped me the most with this transition was joining a baby group. And I didn't really have any friends who were moms at the time, and I met an incredible group of working women who all had babies within the same month as me, and it was amazing to be able to have this place to go. You know, you walk in initially and everybody's a stranger, but as you start coming and eventually everybody starts crying and you're breastfeeding in front of each other, or people are crying because they can't breastfeed, or you know, whatever the case may be, you start to realize like how many commonalities you have, and it's nice to be in it with people because each phase of motherhood is very different, and when you have, you know, this nap cycle versus that nap cycle, it's easier to plan things to do with people when they're on the same nap cycle as you. And it is nice to have a group of people who you can just be yourself around and who you don't have to, you know, pretend anything with. And I think I encourage everybody to, if you have the capability to do it, to try it, because it is with the most helpful thing, and it's where I got all of my friends from my first son. Like, all of my friends now are from that original baby group.
I love that, and something on that note is like taking walks, like just taking walks. I think so much of the world's strife would be solved if we just took walks and talked it out. And I think that there's something beautiful about being with like other women and just like taking that walk and seeing how things unwind.
With the carrier.
And in the carrier? No, but like really, there's going to be two things coming up. One is, what about the importance of movement and self-care? And also how could maybe wearing be a part of that could be a second part of it.
I think that being in motion is one of the most important ways to get back to yourself once you are done with the rest. And so obviously, it goes in shifts, and obviously you have to rest. But for me, like I just Izzy is now a year, but when she was first born, I would wear her in my carrier, and I would push my son to preschool every morning, and it was the best part of my day. And I would walk with my neighbors, and we would talk, and it was when I felt connected and I could see people, and she would sleep on me, and it made me feel more alive. And like anytime I think that we can bring motion into your life, it helps connect you and ground you. And for a long time, when Aiden was first born, it was hard for me to get back to being physical, and I was like, I don't have time to, I used to go to Pilates 3 or 4 times a week before he was born, and then I was like, I have no time to exercise, this doesn't exist. But the walking it's the best thing. The kids love it because it's, fresh air, and they're, getting that breeze, and you can talk about the things that you're seeing even if they're, not understanding it yet. I think hearing your voice is amazing, but also that's a great way to bond with other women. And an easy thing to say is like, hey, let's just go for a walk. And it's a very easy, way to reconnect with yourself, reconnect with other people, and you'd be surprised how much bonding can happen during that time.
Double down on that. So I have 2 wonderful daughters that are 5 3/4, which is, those 3/4 are very important, and then 7 1/2. And still to this day, one of the only times, again, very busy work person right now as well, but I walking with, at least once a week, I make sure I walk with a girlfriend who has children around the same age, and I'm getting, multitasking again, right? Like I'm getting that human connection with her, and that village feeling, but also the workout and just the fresh air. I mean, all of the things come together. But I've also found with my daughters, after dinner now, I take a walk with each of them, like around the block in our neighborhood, and we're starting that conversation, just because walking in itself, like, and having that time, being active, having that movement, and starting that tradition for my family and for my daughters, right? Specifically having daughters and learning that this is a great way to kind of commune with nature and with each other. So this is a habit to start for yourself now as part of self-care, but something that can really become integral to your family too.
I'd love to talk about the importance of baby wearing. Just because, I had my first carrier, Ergo baby, and many others when I was like over 10 years ago. I got at the pump station, and there's just nothing has changed. It's just, I'm seeing this right here, and baby's close, but maybe talking about skin to skin and those amazing glands that are activated that women have.
So, I want to first talk about just my experience of baby wearing and just kind of explain to you guys that I had absolutely, and this was my 8-year-old, now 8-year-old. My first two were 14 months apart, so I was pregnant with my second when my first was 5.5 months. Definitely not planned, and it was super crazy. So I remember just the fear of getting out of the house. And this is for a lot of moms that have more than one, even the mom that has just one or pregnant with one. It's a task. Like true, honest motherhood, it is really difficult sometimes, not to scare anyone, but just to prepare you. And you probably already have the anxiety even beforehand, even before having your baby, of getting out the house. When you add a multiple, it's even more like, man, I just got down with like packing a diaper bag and getting out. And with the first, I felt like I needed the whole nursery. Like diapers, sanitizer, wipes, the stroller, everything. By the time my second came around, for me, Ergo, and I explain this a lot, it's almost like a cape reversed. It is so emotional for me with my fourth, but even to wear my fourth in the first original carrier I had, you have your hands back. And a lot of the times it's almost like you feel like you have a part of you back. So that's just the first part of it. I don't know where I would be, even sitting up here now, without my Ergo, and not even just the Ergo, without baby wearing. It's so important if you can try it. There's a lot of moms that come to events, and then I know friends of mine that are like, my baby just doesn't like the carrier, not our carrier, but just a carrier in general. And it's your energy a lot of the times carries over to your baby. So once you get the hang of baby wearing, just getting out of the house and feeling more confident with yourself, a lot of the times it just comes second nature. So that's the first part about baby wearing. Now as far as skin to skin, we all know, it wasn't, when I had my 8-year-old, they didn't really talk about it too much. Like the things that have changed from my 8-year-old to now this newborn is completely, the baby products alone is like, to find my Ergo bin outside at a hippie store in Koziol, looking for a carrier, they're like, Ergo what? And I'm like, they carry that, they kangaroo style thing. I'm like, it's a baby carrier. It was like really odd, and now it's just so easily accessible to so many parents, slings, wraps, carriers. Whatever you choose to use in this really in between for the moms like me, which I'm honest about. I work for Ergo, but I'll be totally honest, I am not a wrap mom. Wraps in me just wasn't my thing. So this is such a great midpoint for skin to skin with a newborn, because it's like a newborn carrier, and then also to transition from a soft structured carrier to a wrap. So it's, I'll touch on that, and then I'll let you guys go more into like the medical terms if you want to, skin to skin, but that's my honest opinion on baby wearing for me.
Well, I don't work for Ergo, but when Christina asked me, I was like, I am a lifer. My first baby, it was the 5th child with that one carrier, and then I passed on to another mom. So they last, literally like families. It's the only one I use. And I'm a postpartum doula, and when everyone's like, help me with the wrap, I'm like, just YouTube it, because I can't do the wraps. We were talking about it. Like, the Ergo has saved me. Even my 2-year-old, we keep the newer Ergo in the back of the car, and she goes, pouch, pouch, whenever we get out of the car, because she loves it. And I'm a huge walker, and just, there's nothing like it, and I'm gonna keep her in that until she's too big. And she's super independent and loves to run and everything, but there's something about that's part of our bonding day. And
Back carry too.
yeah, and I do that too. When I hike, she's on the back, and it does really make you feel like you have part of your life back and your autonomy. And also they sleep, like so many of my clients, like baby's freaking out, they won't sleep, what's going on? I'm like, put the baby in the wrap or the Ergo and just go outside, change the air, walk. And they, like 99%, they're like, oh my God. It's like, it's not, it's just very intuitive. And it's so easy. So thank you, Ergo.
And baby wearing, we're saying. And
Baby wearing generally. So I did the sling and the wrap and the Ergo. And I think, yes, baby wearing really is that key. I will say the Ergo did end up being my favorite because it just can grow with you longer. But baby wearing, definitely, again, trying to like hold onto your identity and being this capable woman, and we take 2 hands, is helpful. It's also, that 4th trimester and even beyond, that bonding time with baby, that skin to skin time is critical, not just for your baby, but for you. I mean, I remember my husband was wonderful and got me a massage that I did during kind of that postpartum period. And just thinking about my baby, I would start lactating, right? Like I went to this thing and they were asking me to look at pictures of the baby, and I would start lactating. And there's just, we need to be with our babies during this time. And so that skin to skin is just, it's calming for everyone, and really, really critical and important to do. And it sets, who knows if you're gonna be a tiger mom, an attachment mom, a free range mom, whatever you choose to do, but that attachment period and that time really establishes that base and that foundation for that relationship with your child. And so spending that time close together and bonding, and doing that with your partners too. Like baby wearing is not just for mama. To make sure that your partners are also taking that time together, skin to skin also. One other parenting hack though, when it comes to the baby wearing, is this witching hour time that happens. Dance party with your baby when you're baby wearing. For me, we would turn on the radio, I would wear the baby, and then literally just dance around. It got, again, movement, some of my own energy out, and they liked the rocking and the moving and the music. I mean, you try all the things, but for me, that tended to work well with the baby wearing.
I love that. We need to wrap up with one more question, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna ask the question and have each one of you just give like maybe 2 sentences somehow. So many questions to choose from, but I'm gonna say, how can mothers deepen and trust their intuition? Sorry.
So
Maybe one thing or something.
yeah. So getting, I kept wanting to like talk about like the bonding. Okay. So
We're good.
Okay, so maybe put the baby where the baby, because that is what your body needs, and that's what the baby needs in the 4th trimester, because human babies have such a big skull. They're born relatively sooner than other mammals and other animals, and so that's why they need to be there, but that's what you need. There's some studies that say that postpartum depression happens when baby's away from you. If they are in the stroller or a car seat too much, your body starts to think that your baby's dying and it's away from you. And so I think having your baby close, being still, listening to your wisdom, knowing you have it, trusting your intuition, honoring your needs, and asking for what you need.
So I don't know if this answers the question, but
Whatever your wrap-up statement
Okay.
might be.
I just want to encourage everybody. Like, I love the fact that you're going to start breastfeeding right here. I think we're in such an amazing, transformative time for women, and I love, that we're changing what the boundaries are, and I think it's all of our responsibility to not be ashamed of anything that has to do with motherhood. Like, just let it out there, show the world. Don't try to make it rosy or picture perfect. Be comfortable telling people when you're having a terrible day or crying in public or breastfeeding in public. Like I loved wearing Izzy, and I had to go to work, and I had to go and give 14 back-to-back presentations in front of hundreds of people, and I wore my daughter, and I was like very proud to be like, listen, I'm going to show up, but I'm going to show up with my child, and I'm not going to try to pretend that I'm not going to sit down and nurse her in between these things, because I think it's important to just make people aware of what's going on. I pump in all of my meetings. I think it's the more you can do in front of other people, the more other people will join in, and their strength in bringing it to the forefront. So I encourage everybody to try to make it a more comfortable world for everybody coming after us.
Excellent advice. So we're just coming to terms as a society around the value of caregiving generally. And one of the ways that we do that first is by valuing it in ourselves. And so when I spoke about superpowers that you're all going to get or are gaining right now, know that the first one that you get is that no one knows your baby better than you. And so own that, know that deep inside your heart, and be there to advocate for your baby, for yourself, for your family, and just never stop doing it. That would be like my advice around like trusting your intuition. Like no one knows your baby better than you.
I echo that. I think, spiritually, our babies choose us, we choose our babies, and you already are the perfect mother for your child, and really honoring that and owning that, and knowing that every single day you have the opportunity to course correct. Like that is my personal mom mantra is, today, it's okay, new challenge. I'm gonna course correct what I thought I was going to and show up in my authenticity today. And I think kids know when we're telling the truth and they see us, and if we're not telling the truth, they know that, and it creates a divide in their trust in us. So I apologize to my daughters a lot if I'm snappy, if I didn't show up the way I really want to, and then they learn how to do that as well.
For me, it's just be patient with yourself. I echo everything these wonderful women have said, but truly be patient with yourself. Balance is BS. People will tell you all day that, and that I heard that from Susan Peterson years ago with my first Susan Peterson, who founded Freshly Picked Moccasins. But I heard that and I was like knee deep in motherhood then. And I was just like, she's right. I'm not doing the laundry. That's okay. I learned to just accept that it's hard. Like you are going to hear, and that's the thing that I explain to moms and friends and parents all day, is that it's not easy. No matter what people tell you, it's beautiful, it's magical, but it's hard. So once you're patient with yourself and you're able to accept that, yeah, it's hard, but I wanted this. Or yeah, it's hard, but I love this. I just think motherhood can be so much more smoother for yourself and for others around you and for your baby, because your baby feels the energy that you have.
I want to thank all of you so much for being here and sharing today, and just want to say, as maybe a closing statement, that all of this means so much to me, and I think that I have a 6-year-old and 10-year-old, and it doesn't stop. I feel like I'm a newborn mother in so many ways with my 10-year-old who's on this shift into this new phase, and I need this just as much. We all need this whole way. It just never ends. We need each other, and don't be afraid to ask for help. We're all friends in this room, just let go of any part of this. It's important to really acknowledge each other. So thank you for being here and listening.